What's up, NFL fans? Today is week one. The first full week. We've already had two games, but the first full week of the NFL season. Today, I'm going to predict the games. I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen in each game. We're going to talk spreads and we're going to talk overall who I think is going to win. So follow along and let's get this thing started, folks. Share out. All right, folks. Here we go. So we're going to start at the top here. We're going to start at the 12 o'clock window here in the Central, which will be 1 Eastern, of course. Going to start off with the Steelers visiting the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are a 4-point favorite at home against the Steelers. We know the Falcons have Kirk Cousins this year. We know Russell Wilson is questionable for the Steelers, dealing with an injury. If he doesn't play, then, of course, you're going to see Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins' first game coming off of that full season injury last year, the knee injury. But they got a lot of talent over there in Atlanta. I mean, you look at their receivers, Drake London. Of course, you got Bijan coming out of the backfield. I think Atlanta's going to be really good on offense. Fitz initially went with Pittsburgh in this game. I think I'm still going to go with Pittsburgh as far as the spread, but I think Atlanta takes this game by a field goal. I'm going to go Falcons 23-20. Second game, Buffalo, as you see, I'm a Miami Dolphin fan, so I don't have a lot of love for Buffalo. None at all, but I think the Bills are at home against Arizona. They got a little bit to prove. They're 6.5-point favorite. I think they cover this. Arizona coming off a rough year. Kyler Murray's got to be excited to be there week one, starting for the Cardinals because last year dealt with the injuries, missed most of the season. I think the Cardinals will put up a fight, but 6.5. I think Buffalo's a 10-point winner here. I think Buffalo wins this one about 30-20. We move on to Tennessee and Chicago. This game here, first start for number one overall draft pick, Caleb Williams and the Bears. We all know the Bears story. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer. I think Caleb Williams will be the first. I think he's going to have a really good season this year. I think the Bears are going to have a really good season after going 7-10 a year ago. They got a lot of talent as well. And you're looking at the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis. This is a make-or-break season. He was a late first-round pick. He's a guy. I think the Titans went 5-12, maybe 6-11 last year. They're off to. We know rookies don't usually do good in their first game, but I think Caleb Williams plays well, and I think the Bears cover this 4 points. I go Bears 27-17. The New England Patriots, first game not in the Bill Belichick era in a long time, coming in with Gerard Mayo as the head coach, who also played for the Patriots, of course, years ago under Belichick. And they're going to go into Cincinnati with a Joe Burrow, a healthy Joe Burrow, at least for Cincinnati Bengals fans' sake. Bengals are a 7.5-point favorite. I think the spread actually started at 9 points, which is a lot. And I think it got betted down to 7.5. But I'm going to go Burrow and the Bengals here. I think Burrow and the Bengals take this one. I give them 27-10. I don't think New England's going to have very much offense here early. They're going to go with Jacoby Brissett. He's going to probably start 5 games. They probably go 0-5, and then they'll switch to the rookie, Drake May. It's going to be a long season, but if you're a Patriots fan, it's all about Drake May and hoping you see him come in and play well and make you feel good about the future. Next game, Houston Texans visiting the Indianapolis Colts. The Houston Texans are a 3-point favorite on the road against the Colts. I think the Colts are a good football team. They're undervalued. We all know everyone's in love with C.J. Stroud. People are saying he's a top 5 quarterback, and he may be a top 5 quarterback, but I personally would not rate him that high because he's only played 1 year. I think it's a little disrespectful to put him ahead of veterans, guys like a Dak Prescott or even a Tua. I wouldn't put him ahead of. But I think that he's got potential. He can definitely, without a doubt, become a top 5 quarterback, but I need to see him have that good sophomore year. Colts are at home here. Anthony Richardson was really good last year in the 4 games or so he played, and he got injured twice and then missed the rest of the season. I think he's going to have a solid season if he can stay healthy this year. The spread is 3. I hate these 3-point spreads because I could easily see this game being a field goal game, but for the purpose of this channel and previewing the game, I'm going to say the Colts are going to cover that 3 points. I think this game is going to be very close and come down to a field goal. I'm going to actually take the Texans to win this game 27-26 and take the Colts to cover. The next game, as you can tell from right above me, and you can tell from my wristbands, I am a Miami Dolphin fan. I've been a Miami Dolphin fan for a lot of years. They're getting 3.5 points. Well, they're a 3.5-point favorite. The Jacksonville Jaguars are getting 3.5 points coming down to Miami Gardens to take on the Dolphins. Jacksonville used to the heat, so Miami not really that much of an early season heat advantage like you like to have when they're playing teams from up north. Jacksonville's pretty acclimated with it. Probably not quite as humid, but still very hot in Jacksonville. So this game's interesting. Dolphins tend to start fast. They tend to bog down, unfortunately, at the end of the seasons. But I think early season, I think Tua's going to have a big game. I know Hill and Waddle, they're going to have nice games. And be very interesting to see what the running games looks like. Trevor Lawrence got that big contract, just like Tua, even slightly bigger than his contract. So Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to have a little chip on his shoulder. He's going to want to have a big game. Dolphins go through a lot of changes on defense. It's going to be interesting to see what this game looks like. Jalen Phillips is playing after that injury last year. He's going to be on a play count, so he's not going to play the full game. I think this game's going to be a game where it could come down to the end, but I think the Dolphins are going to have this game where it's a 1 or 2 point game, and I can see the Dolphins putting up a touchdown late, covering that 3.5. I like Miami in a high-scoring game by the score of 34-27. We'll go Fins in that one. Saints and the Carolina Panthers. Saints, my local home team here. 3.5 point favorite, not a lot of points going against a team that was a 2-15 team a year ago. The Carolina Panthers coming down to the Caesar Superdome. And a lot of people have been really low on the Saints. I've heard people say the Saints were terrible last year. Saints were actually 9-8, which is not terrible. They had a chance to make the playoffs and win the division going into week 18. So they weren't terrible. Their offensive line looks terrible, losing Ryan Ramczyk for the season. So I think Carolina is going to be a little bit better because they can't be any worse than 2-15 from a year ago. So I think this is going to be a close game. Saints getting 3.5. I think that field goal could be the difference, flipping it the other way if you want to go Carolina. I'm going to take the Saints 24-20 to cover, but I would not bet on this game because I think this game could flip the other way and be a 3-point game, but I'm going to go Saints by 4 and 24-20. This game here, I don't know what to think of this one. Minnesota visits the New York Giants up in MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Vikings are a 1-point favorite on the road, but the Vikings go in with Sam Darnold as the quarterback, of course. The under's 41.5. I definitely like the under on that game, the over-under. Justin Jefferson, Addison. I think the Vikings are going to get a little bit on offense, even with Sam Darnold. I think they'll be fine. Make or break season for Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. If Daniel Jones struggles this year, this is going to be his final year, and they'll draft a quarterback. It's a really tough game to pick. The Giants are at home. I'm going to go ahead and take the Giants 21-20. But I can see this game being like 17-13, 17-16, something like that. But yeah, I'll take the Giants at home. The Raiders, this is the first of the late starts. The Raiders are going on the road to take on a Jim Harbaugh in the San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers in SoFi. I was at SoFi last year, week 1, and when my Dolphins went there and played a high-scoring shootout in SoFi. So beautiful stadium, by the way. The Raiders going on the road here against the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Chargers, but this is another game where that 3-point spread, I hate the 3-point spread. I don't like betting those. I prefer 2.5, 3.5, because a lot of ambiguity with 3 points because a lot of games are decided by 3 points. And I don't like pushes. This game can certainly be a push. If I was to bet this game, I might take the under a 39.5 because I don't think with Gardner Minshew, the Raiders offense is going to be that good. And I think their defense is going to be pretty good, adding Christian Wilkins from the Dolphins and paying him $29 million, pricing him out of Miami Gardens. So low-scoring game. They took Justin Herbert's main weapons away from him his first year. And, here Harbaugh comes in, gets rid of Keenan Allen, lets Keenan Allen go to the Bears, Mike Williams to the Jets. Don't think the Chargers are going to score a lot of points. Justin Herbert's talented enough to get them, I'd say, 20 points. I think they beat the Raiders 20-14. So I got them covering, and I definitely take the under. That would be the play in this game. Okay, the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton pay a visit to Seattle to play the Seahawks today. The Seahawks are 6.5-point favorite at home. First ever start for Bo Nix with the Broncos. Maybe it'd be easy to say Bo Nix first start going on the road to Seattle. They take the L, but I'm actually going to do a different play here. I'm going to surprisingly pick the Broncos here. I'd like to see the Broncos win this game because my brother's a diehard Bronco fan and the day is his birthday. So I like to see the Broncos take this game, start 1-0. I don't know how likely it is, but I'm going to take them in this game to upset Seattle in Seattle 24-23. I think Bo Nix is going to have a nice season. I think the Broncos will win seven games, go 7-10, which will actually be a good season for them, to be honest with you, from what they're looking like on paper. But I think Sean Payton has never had a terrible season, so I don't think he's going to be terrible this year either. The Dallas Cowboys visit the Cleveland Browns, and this right here is Tom Brady's first game as an announcer, as a color commentary. So Tom Brady's debut. Oh, I'm so excited for that. I'm not really, but I'm sure that they've been making a big thing about this game for months for that reason. Cleveland's got a really good defense. The Dallas Cowboys have zero running game. I have Dak Prescott in fantasy football. I think Dak's going to have a huge season number-wise, just like he did last year. For his sake, he needs to get the playoffs and win a game. But I think he's going to have a huge season. CeeDee Lamb's going to have a big game today. Cleveland's defense is really good. Myles Garrett, arguably the best defender in the league. Cleveland quarterback-wise, though, I mean, they're paying all of this money and they're not getting a lot of production. So need to see better play out of Deshaun Watson, no doubt. But I think this game is going to come down to Dallas holding. Well, I kind of flip-flop a lot on this game. Cleveland's a 2.5-point favorite. I'm definitely taking Dallas on the spread, but I've kind of changed my mind several times on who I think is going to win this game. It's week 1. It's in Cleveland. Go ahead and give me Cleveland to win this game 23-21. So taking Dallas on the spread, sort of hedging my bet, but I take Cleveland to win by 2 points. The Washington Commanders take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a nice year this year. The rookie out of LSU, last year's Heisman Trophy winner. They're going to go visit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who made the playoffs and actually won a game last year handily against the Eagles. Baker Mayfield, you had a nice season a year ago. I think he's solid again this year. Not great, but solid. I'm going to pick the upset and take the Commanders here to win the game outright, cover the 3.5 points. They're a 3.5-point dog. I like the Commanders 24-23 in a close game. Okay, so now I go to the Peacock Sunday night football game. This is the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford going back home again, where he ended the season in Detroit against his former team, the Lions. If you watched my pick the other day, I picked the Lions to win the Super Bowl this year against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Rams are going to be a really good team this year as well. They're 4.5-point underdog against Detroit. It's hard for me not to take the Rams in the 4.5 points, even though I like Detroit to win the game, because I think it's going to be a close game. But I'm going to give Detroit the spread and say they win by a touchdown, 27-20 over the Rams. And finally, I'm going to end this with the Monday Night Football game. Aaron Rodgers returned. We all know how it happened last year when Aaron Rodgers returned. He played all of 4 snaps. So he opens up in Santa Clara against the San Francisco 49ers. Niners are a 4.5-point favorite. And I like the Niners in this game. 4.5 points is very questionable, though, if they can cover that, because I think it will be a close game. But, I'm going to predict this game to be less than a 1-score game all the way through. And I think the 49ers score late, maybe a field goal to bump them ahead by 6 and pull it out 27-21. Going to be an interesting game. Going to be interesting to see what Aaron Rodgers looks like in his first full game back. But a lot of people are saying that Aaron Rodgers is the MVP of old and all this stuff, but he may just be an old MVP. He's over 40 years old, and the last full year he did play for the Packers, he had a very mediocre season. So, I mean, the Jets have everything in place to have a great season. The only issue that the Jets have is that they're the New York Jets, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong with the New York Jets. They haven't made the playoffs in, 13, 14 years now, so we're going to go 49ers at home. But I am definitely looking forward to this week 1, full week 1 of NFL games. And by the way, I thought I'd mention too the Friday night game in Brazil, right at the end, second to last play, when Jordan Love got hurt. He is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He sprained his MCL. Fortunate for the Packers, it wasn't worse, because I honestly thought it could have been a torn MCL or torn ACL. But fortunately for the Packers, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks only. They're going to have to find a replacement, because I don't think Malik Willis is the answer. That was a great game with Kansas City and Baltimore on Thursday night. Kansas City winning that game by literally a toe. Baltimore, they were set to go for 2. They're going to win it or lose it with that score. And, of course, if you betted on that game, you had to have been really nervous, because them going for 2, that would have swung everything to Baltimore on the point spread. Of course, it ended up going Kansas City's way by a toe. So made a lot of people nervous at the end. Great finish to that game. Can't wait to get this season started. Hopefully my Dolphins can get off to a good start and a good finish. They got a brutal schedule at the end of the season, so really need to get off to a good start. Excited about this. We'll talk about the games in the coming days. But as always, peace and football. See y'all later.